Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Atlantic City. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen. We've got the Ocho, David Ochoa, on the right-hand side of your screen there. He's playing a blue-white deck at 10-1 here against Jacob Wilson. Now, this is the finals of the first draft pod of the day here for these two gentlemen. They are both 2-0 with their decks and ready to rumble. And this is a huge one. If they can come out of their draft pod unscathed and stay at 11-1, that will put them in a prime position to gear up for the top 8. And I will tell you, I have seen both of these decks, Jacob. They're both great. And they're very different from each other, as you can see.
Yeah, I've seen Wilson's.
Go ahead. You've seen Wilson's. Tell us about what Wilson's up to.
So Wilson has a red-black deck with a lot of removal. He has cards like Collateral Damage that combo with things like Sultai Emissary. Just a lot of really impressive things, some aggressive threats. I saw some Goblin Heel Cutters, which combo nicely with his instant speed removal. His deck just seems really powerful. We saw him use we saw him have Pitiful Horde.
Pitiless Horde.
Pitiless Horde, yeah, and just...
Pitiful Horde is kind of sweet. Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's not pitiful. Now, on the other side of the table, you're going to see David Ochoa, who's playing a more controlling deck. It's not a full-on control deck, but it's more controlling. He has the ability to churn through his deck with cards like Gurmag Drowner, actually, which is what he's done here. He's also got he's got 2 copies of Anticipate in his main deck. He's got multiple Jeskai Sages. He can get right through it. Also Zephyr Scribe, as you can see on the table here. And by the way, here's Pitiless Horde now from Jacob Wilson, which is going to enable an attack.
Of that.
Oh, that's why I saw it every single game over there. That makes more sense. And he's actually going to attack and offer a trade here. And what Jacob's representing right now is Coat with Venom. And he does have one of those in his deck too. So Ochoa, he's going to have to respect it here. Probably, if he goes for the double block, he's going to be trading both creatures for the coat, and that's a tough sell. He also could just single block with his Gurmag Drowner and not take any damage here, and there's a coat with them. So he decides not to get greedy, and it looks like he's rewarded for that this time.
Absolutely, and I mean, he's losing his 4-mana creature to a 1-mana spell, but then he also already got some value out of that Drowner. He was able to find some good cards off the top of his library with it.
Yeah, he does get in for a damage, interestingly, does Jacob Wilson. The Cut with Venom pumping the power up to 2, and since it gives it Death Touch and the Forerunners already has Trample, he's actually able to trample over for 1 damage, even through the 4 Toughness Drowner.
This is a good one from Ochoa.
Yeah, so this is one of his 2 bombs. He's got a Sunscorch Regent, which you see on the table here. And we'll see if he draws his other bomb a little bit later. It's another Regent, in fact. It's an Icefall Regent.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Some good 5-mana dragons there.
Calculator Calcano there on the background. You saw him for just a second on our wide shot. Has won his first game already. Holy smokes.
Wow. That seems ridiculous.
Yes, that is confirmed ridiculous. And taking a look at the board state here, this is something you're going to have to get used to. Jacob Wilson's deck is very aggressive and capable of piling on huge amounts of damage. It has some really cool plays available to it as well.
And he's been playing super tight today.
Very tight.
I mean, last round we watched him just work through his opponent and force his opponent to make the worst possible, force his opponent to use his mana inefficiently over and over and over again.
I was actually standing, his opponent was Daniel Cicchetti that round, and I was standing behind him, and I like to, I was playing along with what would I do here, and I thought Daniel was playing totally fine, and Jacob was just kind of playing him like a fiddle for a little while in the middle there.
And Daniel's no slouch.
Not at all.
WMCQ champion, just won a Grand Prix.
Yep. I thought he played fine, and it was like, wow, yeah, Jacob really had a good read on what was going on.
David Ochoa has not been doing great lately.
He needs a win here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the last time I saw him at the top of the standings, last time I saw him, doing really well in person at a Grand Prix was the last Grand Prix Atlantic City.
Okay. Maybe this is his town.
Yeah.
All right, in the meantime, Sarkon's Rage is going to take down the Sunscorch Regent here as Pitiless Horde and the Forerunners bash David Ochoa. He's down to 12 now. So he's going to need a way to come back He has a lot of ways to get through his deck, but they're kind of slow. You know, when you're casting Anticipates while your opponent's attacking you with Pitiless Horde, that doesn't work out that well for you down the line. Now,
Not at all.
he also, though, has these bombs that I mentioned. You know, an Icefall Regent on a Pitiless Horde is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Gets stuck there. Once Jacob sees the Icefall Regent, he will not. He will be. He'll probably be looking to dash the Pitiless Horde as much as he can. He doesn't want to get that thing locked down.
When you're losing 2 life a turn, and then losing another 4 from getting attacked by the dragon,
That's right.
and not getting to attack with your best creature, generally does not bode well for you.
All right, now this is a nice one for Ochoa, who probably has an Anticipate in hand based on the attack there. This is pretty interesting because if you've ever played with or against Student of Ojutai, that thing can gain. It adds up really fast, but I have to say, Jacob Wilson's deck is capable of pounding in for very large amounts of damage. He attacked for something like 18 or 19 in a turn against Cicchetti in the last match, where Daniel could gain 5 life and block a creature and still just died. Like, that's how much damage Jacob Wilson's deck can punch in at a time. And when you're gaining 2 with the student, that's fine. Like, you're happy about it, but it's not like that's going to blank entire attack steps here from Jacob. Jacob passes priority, and that leaves David Ochoa taking 5, dropping down to 7 here after he's blocked the Kolagon Forerunners with the Student of Ojutai.
So this is an interesting play here. So Kolagon's Forerunners deals 2 damage to the Student of Ojutai, meaning that Jacob can actually trade his Forerunners in for Butcher, and then finish off the Student of Ojutai and cut off that path of life gain.
You're talking about Silumgar Butcher?
Yeah.
Okay.
Silumgar's Butcher.
There it is. Silumgar Butcher comes down. And with the weakened Student of Ojutai, he could finish it off. And he's going to do just that. Now let's see if Ochoa is going to gain any life before that happens. And Anticipate would be what I would expect, and there it is. So another couple of life comes back to Ochoa, pumping him back up to 9, and this absolutely can be a race. You know, you saw David Ochoa attack with that Zephyr Scribe last turn, and when your opponent has a Pitiless Horde going, that damage adds up really, really fast.
I think I see an Icefall Regent there.
That could be really, really bad news for Jacob. I mean, it's just interesting because, like I said, Ochoa can just churn through his library. I mean, we've already seen him use a Gurmag Drowner. He's got a Looter on the board right now, and he just cast Anticipate. Like, he can get to those bombs.
He can find precisely what he needs at exactly the right moment. And it looks like he does have an answer to the Pitiless Horde in hand already.
Which is?
Enduring Victory?
Okay.
Perhaps not the best answer possible, but I mean,
It's got to be one of the best.
It does what it does.
Ooh. So
That's a nice one.
So this is the way that Ocho can actually just take the beats to Jacob here. Okay, so that blue card actually wasn't an Icefall Regent there, Jacob. It was a Jeskai Sage.
Okay.
A little less good, but it's actually great here.
Awesome in this spot.
Yeah, because he got to attack for 4 damage with his Zephyr Scribe, and then 2 damage from Pitiless Sword also hit, and the Jeskai Sage can just, jump in front. It's going to eat up 5 damage here.
Yeah, it's like gaining 5 and dealing 2.
Right. And this is just a situation that Jacob can't get into because now the Elite Scale Guard allows David Ochoa to get in for attacks and tap the Pitiless Sword so that he can't trade it off for the Zephyr Scribe. And that, I mean, right now Jacob Wilson wants that Pitiless Horde gone. That's the thing. Like, that's a liability for him now. If the game stays in this state, he loses.
Absolutely.
Which is interesting, right? I mean, you don't get 5/3s for 3 mana without downside, and it has a significant downside. Make no mistake.
David did a great job surviving this game too. I mean, here he is. See, 5/3 on turn 3. He's turned sideways every turn in the game, and he's still right here in the thick of it.
Yeah, he's just going to chump block to prevent 5 damage. This does have him taking some, though. 3 as it sits, and what is Jacob Wilson up to here?
Could just be a Butcher's Glee to gain 8 life.
He does have Butcher's Glee in his deck, and that would help swing this damage race back in Jacob Wilson's favor, or at least buy him some time. He's doing math right now. This is going to be a close one. They both know what the deal is. They know that Jacob Wilson doesn't win the race as it sits, so that means that Ochoa is trying to press his advantage in the damage. Normally you'd be on the defensive against Jacob's deck, but the Pitiless Sword kind of picks a fight with you in a big way, right? It says, let's race.
Yeah. David said, all right, I'll race.
All right, it's actually going to get in for extra damage and drop Ocho down to 3 here. That means that Jacob's not going to gain quite as much life in the transaction.
But
he
I
doesn't
like that.
care. I like that a lot.
Because it puts David to 3. Both of the creatures he has on the board have 3 power. He has another creature with more than 3 power in hand that has dash, it looks like. So, pretty nice. I think he has a sprinting war brute. That's his last card.
Yeah, he could easily set up a victory if that's the case.
He may have a swift.
He's got a Swift Warkite for sure.
Also, yeah.
And by the way, you can get back Pitiless Horde with Swift Warkite, which is just absurd.
Yeah, it's a pretty big attack.
Yeah, just crunched for 5 out of nowhere. Normally you're like, all right, you got in for an extra 2 damage, congrats, you know, but...
Yeah. That's like almost a Dragon Lord Kolagon.
All right, I think the life totals might be switched here.
Jacob,
let's get those checked, because that doesn't look right to me at all.
Jacob's definitely at 11. David's definitely at 3.
Right. All right. So here's 4 damage, though. So this should put Jacob at 7 and Ochoa at 3.
Yeah, and I think that the Sprinting Warbrute's going to be enough for Jacob to get this first game.
I suppose that depends. Because before blocks, if Ochoa does have Enduring Victory, remember the Zephyr Scribe would untap and one of the creatures would be dead.
Oh, you're right.
And that would actually lock it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
He can Enduring Victory now before blocks, Zephyr Scribe untaps, and then he can block. Now, unfortunately for Ochoa, let's see, does he have any? No, all of his blocks involve his creatures dying.
Well, not when the Enduring Victory is taken into account, right?
Oh, that he can put it on either creature. So he could put it on, let's see, the Scale Guard and make it a 3/4 and eat the Butcher. There you go.
Yep. And then you get to attack back for lethal, right?
Yeah, I think he actually puts it on the Zephyr Scribe and
then
blocks the Butcher. Yeah.
And then you chump the Pitiless Horde with the Zephyr Scribe, and then
you chump with the Elite Scale Guard and you eat the Silumgar Butcher. That doesn't work either.
That doesn't work. So he's got a...
No, that works. That works fine.
Yeah, that does work, right?
Yep, he can just kill the Sprinting Warbrute. So this looks good. So the plan here is to play... Well, it depends on what Jacob Wilson's last card is. Do we know what that is? It's a Warkite, right?
Yeah, he has a Swift Warkite.
Yeah,
so I think he has 2 cards in hand, though, Jacob.
Okay, so he can kill the Sprinting Warbrute with Enduring Victory. He can put the counter on the Zephyr Scribe and untap it. Block the Silumgar Butcher with the Scribe, block the Elite Scale Guard on the Pitiless Horde, and then attack for the win on the Crackback.
I like it.
That's the line. It makes Jacob have something here. We know one of his cards is a blank. The question is, what is the other one?
If it's collateral damage, then we're not going to see much more of this game.
Teamer, and he has that in his deck.
He does have
Teamer Battle
damage.
Rage would get it done here too. Don't know if he has one. It is collateral damage.
Ooh, and that's it.
And that's game. Wow, Ocho was so close. He had it.
That was an incredible game. Super
he
tight
had what
there.
he needed. And Jacob Wilson has it and kills him.
That's some patience on Jacob's part, too. Just sitting there thinking to himself,
I don't know if that's patience.
You think it's just slow rolling?
Well, just
Yeah.
get the little needle in there. I mean, not bad or anything.
It was a pretty long time.
Yeah. You have to think about each play, right? Because you don't want to be hasty. All right, so here's Eli Casas. He's playing against Christian Calcano, who, as we mentioned before, ended up winning the game in a quick one. Tell him. Yeah, so it's Kassis. Just, we'll get that corrected on our graphic up there. Eli Kassis. And looks like Christian Calcano is taking a bit of a thumping here. He's down to 2, and there's a lot of sideways creatures on the battlefield here with Eli sitting at 8.
Looks like Christian did win the first game, though. Remember we talked about that.
I just said that,
in 2 seconds.
He just beat him really quick. I'm assuming that Eli didn't find his mana, something along those lines. See that there's a Silumgar monument lurking down there as well.
The last match we saw a turn 5 win from Andrew Cuneo.
Wow. Really?
But he lost the other 2 games.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was out of the booth for that round. All right, but it looks like Calcano is just going for the win here. And somehow Eli left that door open for him, and Calcano walked right through it and won.
Well, yeah, Eli had no flyers in play, and apparently the harsh sustenance was on the top of his library.
But I mean, how did all his creatures get tapped? I'm assuming he attacked with them.
Well, yeah, but they didn't fly, so it didn't matter.
Oh, he had 8 power of flyers?
Yeah, because he
I
had
didn't see
the monument was hidden under the land.
I saw the monument. What else was it?
There was a Vulturous Haven, and then there was something else.
There was?
I believe so.
Okay. It was just something else that I didn't see. Saw the Haven.
I just remember thinking there are 3 flyers.
Okay.
He's got it. So.
All right, so that's going to even things up on that game, though. Or that's going to do it, excuse me, for Christian Calcano. That one's done.
Christian Calcano, 11-1.
Smoking it here.
Kind of defending some home turf here. You know, not really his hometown, but
yeah, he's a New Yorker, but close, right?
Yeah.
A couple hours away from New York here in Atlantic City, and see if the Ocho can get back into this thing. Jacob Wilson's deck is fantastic, but you know what? So is David's. And I think the Ocho could use a win. You know, he could get him in the top 8 of a GP. We haven't seen him there in a little while, and I think it's about time for David to get back there. Now, Jacob Wilson, he's always a threat.
Yeah, he's just been crushing it.
He's just insane.
Yeah, David Ochoa had all the tools that he needed to win that last game. If it weren't for that collateral damage coming off the top of Jacob Wilson's deck.
It was that close?
That would have been it. Collateral damage is another one of those cards that, you know, you don't really think about it that much. You never really take it that early, but every time you see that card played in a deck where it's, you know, quite good, it's always very, very good.
Yeah, Lightning Bolt's a good one. All right, let's see if Ochoa has another Anticipate here. Yeah, looks like he might. He blocked with the Jeskai Sage, and there's the Anticipate. So looking to do a little trading and getting some value here for Ochoa. He calls out the Prowess trigger. Looks at the top
really
3.
nice for
Takes
him.
if this works out the way he wanted it to, it's great. Oh yeah, and Ochoa gets to draw a card off the Sage. Not too bad at all. What does Jacob have as a follow-up? Not much.
Yeah, I mean, he has
Soul
2 copies
Time
of
Emissary.
Pitiless Horde, but instead he's just putting 1 point of power on the table here. Ochoa's got to be happy about that.
Yeah, he's got to be thrilled.
And he could let an Emissary peck away at him for essentially forever.
Right.
No big deal. Let's see. Ochoa? Yeah, I'm just going to play the 2-4. Grimlock Drowner is a pretty good card also.
Yeah, it's going to do good work on the ground here against Jacob Wilson's small creatures as well. Ochoa opting not to exploit this time. With that many cards in hand, you got to figure he's got a lot of potent spells lined up, and it looks like he's going to go for Pitiless Horde on the dash. He probably could have played it last turn, but like I said, you know...
Did he just draw it now, though?
I don't know.
I imagine he would have just played it on turn 3.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. It might be the case. In the meantime, he's going to get in there for 5. I've seen Jacob really try to work the whole dash thing pretty hard. He also might be aware that Ochoa's got like the Icefall Regent or something like that.
That's reasonable.
All right, we're going to see a big 5-drop here from the Ocho. He's going to attack with the Drowner, and Jacob's going to immediately cash it in. He'd rather have a Manifest than the 1/1.
He's already got David down to 15. You can put that 2-power creature on the table. Maybe he has some more stuff in hand. You can apply a lot of pressure.
Plus, he might just hit. You know, sometimes you just hit a good creature, you hit a Pitiless Sword or whatever, and you can get him. And there it is, Icefall Regent to take down the Manifest. You know, David is looking at it going, well, if Jacob's going to play, is he going to start dashing in Pitiless Sword? I'm probably not going to get a chance at it anyway, so I'm just going to develop my board out here. and try to make this thing into a bit of a race.
Yeah, I mean, an Icefall Regent like that is absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Still an absolute bomb. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
no
talking
need to
about
be greedy.
an air elemental that's harder to hit with removal, that's also removing your opponent's 2/2 from the realm of relevance. Pretty exciting card. In fact, Jacob's in a really rough way now that Icefall Regent has come down. He essentially has no non-land permanents that matter on the board.
Soul Flayer is what he's going to take. No abilities, just as a 4/4 for 5. Not bad,
No, not bad at all.
but not good. But he's lining up some pretty big chunks of damage to come through. I mean, next turn he could be attacking for 9. Ochoa's going to have to keep that in mind.
Ochoa has to apply the pressure back, though.
So Icefall Regent rumbles, dropping Wilson down to 16 life. And it's just a little Jeskai Sage for Ochoa, but those do so much work in situations like this. They prevent 5 damage and draw you a card, and when you have the card quality that Ochoa has, it just sort of keeps things moving forward for you while not taking damage.
It's similar to Sultai Emissary in the way that it's one of those cards that was already pretty decent, and then Dragons of Tarkir came out, and now it's just an all-star.
Yeah. So
Really great
here's
in so many
question number
decks.
1. Is Ochoa going to cash that thing in immediately? Or is he going to wait? Remember, he knows about Pitiless Horde in hand for Jacob, so he knows he can block for a little bit more if he wants. Let's see what he's up to here. I think he's going to whisk away here, actually. Yeah, there it is. So he whisks
Seems quite
away
good.
the Soul Flayer. Uh-oh. Tail Slash in response, though. That's going to take down the Icefall Regent if it resolves, and there's nothing that Ochoa can do. So not a bad sequence for Jacob. He got the most important permanent off the battlefield. He's going to get that Soul Flayer back. He has the mana to recast it either way. Yeah, not a bad sequence for either player, really. Though you got to feel like David feels like he's a little behind on it, just having
lost
his dragon.
Yeah.
But here's another Anticipate triggering the Jeskai Sage. David Ochoa slams 1 card into his hand. Can't quite see it though. See if he's got another.
Interesting. Get him for 4?
Yeah, rumble for 4. That's going to drop Jacob down to 12. No great blocks for Ochoa here, and he just passes the turn back. This is going to be an interesting test for Jacob Wilson. Ochoa's pretty clearly representing enduring victory here. He's kind of daring Jacob to dash in his big boy, and he's going to do it. And he's going to attack with both. So I think Ochoa's going to take this opportunity to get rid of the Pitiless Horde here if he has it. Yeah, and he does. All right, so there's enduring victory. That's going to make the Jeskai Sage an actual threat here.
Yeah, I mean, a 2-power creature matters.
With prowess.
Matters a lot, then. Humble Defector's a nice one with collateral damage.
Yes, that is a combo. Have you seen that happen on camera?
I have.
Yeah, it's nice, right?
Very nice.
Okay, so Ochoa's drawn his card for the turn untapped, and now he's surveying the battlefield. Ochoa's rocking his sweet new hair.
I like it.
He kept it close for a long time, but now he's kind of letting it go out a little bit.
Sometimes it's just going to change.
Yeah, I like it. I think it looks good. All right, another third of Jacob Wilson's life total disappears as Ochoa attacks for 4 damage. He's got 7 lands on the battlefield, a couple of cards in hand. You got to wonder if he's starting to flood a little here, maybe. See what he's got.
So one thing about playing a lot of cantrips when you're playing a draft deck, and still playing 17 or 18 land, you end up with a 34 card deck, 17 land, and the ratio is getting a little messed up. I'm not saying that's what happened to David. I think his deck is very well constructed here, but those are things to think about when you're drafting.
Okay, it looks like it was Sidisi's Faithful. And so what David Ochoa was thinking about was, what does he want to do with this? And ultimately, he has decided to sacrifice the Jeskai Sage and then return his own Drowner.
I like that a lot.
You like that little value line?
And this is
He's still
taking his opponent to Value Town.
Yeah. Population Jacob Wilson.
He's using every part of the buffalo. As Magic designer Adam Prozac would say.
There you go. I like that. All right, so he's going to sacrifice the 0-4 Sidisi's Faithful, and he's digging. You know, he's looking for that Sunscorch Regent or for some action. It looks like what he's found here is an elite Scale Guard.
Not a bad one.
Not a bad one at all. He is trying to close out this game as Jacob hasn't really been able to mount a super strong offensive. I mean, he's got some stuff going. He's got Ochoa down to 13, but not quite enough here.
Interesting question for you. When drafting, Gurmag Drowner or
Yeah.
Ojutai Interceptor?
I'm a Drowner man myself.
I'm an Interceptor man. Ben Stark agrees with you, which bodes well for your decision there, but I'm going to stick with my Interceptor choice.
Fair. Okay, so back to Jacob Wilson, who's lining up an attack. No, he's doing your combo. All right, Jake, explain how this works.
Okay, so when you tap Humble Defector, the trigger goes onto the stack, so your opponent's going to gain control of it, and you're going to draw 2 cards. Or the activated ability goes on the stack. Then you're going to hold priority, and while you're holding priority, after you've tapped it, but before the ability resolves, you sacrifice it to collateral damage, and you deal 3 damage to one of your opponent's creatures or to your opponent. And then the Humble Defector is now dead, so your opponent can't gain control of it, but you still draw the 2 extra cards. So,
You could have just said value, but
yeah. Could have just said use every part of the buffalo.
no, that's great though, right? So he uses it to kill the Monastery Lore Master and draw himself a couple of cards. And after that, he's made a Soul Type Flare as well, or Soul Flare, excuse me, as well.
Notice that Jacob, the way he is delving to cast the Soul Flare, it ensures that his Swift War Kite will have maximum value there, regardless of the situation.
The most targets possible.
He needs to draw to a specific out, he can get back Defector. If he just wants 2/2, he can get Emissary, and if he's bashing, he can grab a Horde.
So this is an interesting turn here. Ochoa can get in right now for half of Jacob's life total. I'm sorry, he cannot actually. The Elite Scale Guard's going to pick up both counters here because it's only 3 toughness.
Yes.
Right, and he has a Gurmag Drowner, which is quite big at 2/4. So he actually can't get in there for as much as he'd like here. And unless he has a trick, he can't get in for anything. So he doesn't. He's going to pass the turn back. And Jacob Wilson could be taking over this game. He's just drawn 2 last turn, and now he's moving things forward.
And it looks like he has Sarkhan's Rage in hand.
I saw that. They can use that to kill the Elite Scale Guard here. Ochoa really wanting to pick up a win here to give himself a shot at the top 8. If he picks up a loss, he's still alive for top 8, but it makes that next draft have to go pretty darn well. Jacob Wilson, same exact spot here. If he finishes off this draft at 3-0, his life is so much easier going into the next draft versus if he lets David Ochoa rattle off a couple of wins here and steal this match from him. So, meanwhile, Sarkhan's Rage does in fact finish off the Elite Scale Guard. That also drops Jacob down to 6 though, so his life total's a little precarious here, but as you can see, David Ochoa is down to 7 himself now, and he feels obliged to attack, and it looks like it's just going to be a chump block. Well, it's kind of a chump block. Yeah, so that manifest the whole time was actually a Sultai Emissary, and that could do it here. You know, it doesn't look like Jacob's going to be able to kill him next turn necessarily, but Ochoa needs something huge. He needs something huge. He's got to affect the board here, yeah.
It's kind of his graveyard.
I think he's going for a Gurmag Drowner. Yeah, it is. He's actually worried about milling himself at some point here. It does feel like that's probably not going to happen. He is probably just looking to see what cards he could actually get.
I think he does have a pacifism.
He does. Okay, he almost put those on the bottom, but they actually go in the graveyard for Drowner. So he could go like land, Sunscorch Regent. No, it's a pacifism you just mentioned.
Yeah.
All right, so a nice turn of events there for Ochoa. He looks to have stabilized, though. That manifest could be anything.
David Ochoa just rippling through that deck.
Wow,
super fast.
and Wilson just passes the turn back. He must have drawn a lot of lands in that sequence with the Humble Defector because he had like 4 or 5 cards at one point. Uh-oh. Did he get him?
Is this...
It's a Silumgar Butcher. All right, well, they're just going to bounce off of each other here. And Ochoa's got a Zephyr Scribe now. He's got a bunch of lands on the battlefield, and he's got another one. So a pair of Zephyr Scribes. He actually has lethal up, but the Silumgar Butcher is holding everybody back. Interesting to see if Jacob Wilson attacks here. Yeah.
What would that say to you if he attacked?
You know, like he's got 2 cards in his hand, so he could easily play 2 creatures as blockers. Though it feels like the last turn he would have played any creature he had. He does. He just rumbles in there. Ochoa snaps it off, just says, sure, taking. And let's see what Wilson's follow-up play is. It's just a face-down morph. And he is going to play his land, which means that he's representing Marsh Hulk here. He played his land, didn't have to. And he's basically telling Ochoa, I've got a Marsh Hulk here. This is really interesting to see what happens now, because there's no indication that that is a Marsh Hulk for sure by any stretch.
I think it's
Nobody's that lucky.
pretty confident that it's a Marsh Hulk based on the
You think
series
so?
of plays.
You would
mean,
put the read on that that's
yeah.
exactly what he's got here?
Absolutely. But I mean, he's playing against a strong enough opponent.
Ooh,
though,
he
where
just hit his
might be
Sunscorch
willing
Region.
to,
He just hit his Sunscorch Region.
that matters a lot.
Yeah, well, that's going to change it. Anyway, he's just going to pass the turn back. Let's see if it's Marsh Hulk under there. That's the read. Oh, it's a different 7-mana Megamorph. It's Acid Spewer Dragon. So the uncommon, you don't see it quite as often, but similar effect here. And it was lethal until the Sunscorch Region showed up.
Well, it's at least going to trade with that big rare on David's side of the board.
It will trade currently. And Ochoa has no option here because it's lethal.
Yeah, he absolutely has to block the region here.
Are they confirming life totals? This is a lethal attack.
I think Wilson might be able to deck Ochoa this game if he doesn't find a way to pound through and actually win.
He doesn't
Not
need
sure
much
we'll
to
get to
get
that,
through,
but-
though. So, what is Ochoa thinking about if he's really at 4 here? This is interesting. I don't. Let's take. We'll try to get a little update here.
Maybe he's
Hold
just
on.
thinking about kind of outs he might have.
He thought he was at 6. And I think what happened is that, so I'm getting word from down there that Ochoa didn't block because of a life total discrepancy, potentially.
Oh, he said no blocks.
I think he may have said it. We can't hear, so we can't say that for sure, Jake, but
Okay.
he may have said no blocks, and then now they've realized that there's a life total discrepancy. All right, so the judge is now asking, it looks like we are in a situation where David had said no blocks, probably.
Is there a discrepancy between
But the life totals were wrong.
But I mean, it is the
I-
responsibility to keep track of the life total. So
Yeah, in
Jacob
fact,
is
I'm
well
confirmed-
within his rights here, if that is what happened.
I'm confirmed,
to-
by the way, from our spotter. He said he did not block.
He did not block. Yeah, then he's dead. If
Well, we'll let
unless
the judge
unless
sort it
the
out. Yeah.
the take back gets given.
Well,
but,
so let's let the judge sort it out here.
yeah.
We'll see what goes. I know what you're saying though, Jake. The normal the normal sequence would be you didn't block. The life totals are corrected. Let's go to damage. But we'll let them get it sorted to make sure that things are correct here. Because this is a sticky spot. I mean, the game's on the line here. Like, if
this is
this
it.
block doesn't go through, then Wilson wins the match. Like, that's it. It's over because he's attacking for lethal. So you can see the board state. If you're just joining us here in Atlantic City, we're in game 2 of the third. This is basically the finals of the draft pod, of the first draft
Yep.
pod from day one. Jacob Wilson against David Ochoa, both players at 10-1. This has been a very close match. The first game came down to a top deck
incredible.
from Jacob and Ochoa having just the answer he needed, and ultimately Jacob won that. Now we're in game 2, and we've hit a bit of a snag here. So as you can see, this Acid Spear Dragon is attacking into Ochoa, forcing a trade with the Sunscorcher region. The problem is that the life totals weren't synced up. Ochoa had himself at 6, but Jacob had him at 4. Our spotter had him at 4 as well. Ochoa said no blocks. He's not playing around anything here, as he was looking to try to close out the game on the backswing. But then when it was pointed out, well, you're actually at 4, so that kills you, now they're going to get the judge involved to sort out the mess. So that's where we're at here. This has been a really great match, and it would be a real shame to see it end on a miscommunication. It does happen occasionally, but let's let the judge do what the judge is going to do, and we'll figure it out. We don't have another match in the feature match area at the very moment that we can.
Do you guys
jump
do you
over
want to talk
but-
about your favorite commons and uncommons when drafting Dragons of Tarkir?
Let me hold on a minute. I'm getting a. I'm looking at the life pads as they sat. Yeah, I think that it was just a miscommunication there, and that I think Ochoa is going to be held to the no block. We're playing at a high level event here, professional
Yes.
REL as we call it. That's rules enforcement level, and you can see our head judge, Jared Silva, has joined. This is pretty common when you see a tricky situation like this. Is they'll often appeal to the head judge so that the head judge can come in and really get a solid ruling in here.
Jared is the fairest. He is great.
Jared's a great judge, and he will certainly. So the way this works now is what he's going to do is he's going to gather information from both players. Now, as the head judge, he's got a lot of responsibilities at this tournament. He's out answering questions, running things, making sure everything's going smooth, and then he gets an appeal. And he's got to come over, and he'll usually ask his table judge, all right, so what did you see? And it'll get explained to him so that he has an idea of what to expect when he comes into the situation. Then he'll come in and ask both players for what happened. He's already asked Ochoa, and now you can see Jacob Wilson's going to explain his side. And then from that information, we'll have a ruling.
Okay, so we have a discrepancy in life totals right now, or do we have a discrepancy?
Actually, a fairly straightforward situation as far as what happened on board. Jacob attacked.
block
Ochoa said no blocks immediately. And then when they were going to go to damage, it would be like, okay, but that would leave you dead. And now they're working through the miscommunication.
And this is something that's important to remember. When you get into these types of situations, call a judge over. It's nothing to be, this isn't really, it's not high stress to have a judge come over. It's there so that people can be comfortable.
That's right.
You should be comfortable when you're playing Magic, especially when you're, going to a Magic tournament, playing in a competitive setting. Having judges there, it makes you more comfortable, getting to call them over, getting to talk through what happened with them.
That's right.
It gives you a much more solid feeling that fair is fair.
Right.
And it's a great thing.
You know, and a little known secret about judges, they like it. They're here to
They
volunteer.
love it.
They're here to help you out.
Yeah.
You know, they want to help out. I think a lot of people think when they come to a tournament that it's like bothering the judge or that they're being nitpicky or,
Or
you
that,
know,
like, they're
bothered.
out to get them or something.
Yeah.
But that's not the case at all.
No, I mean even for the
Yeah.
judges. Like I think they think like, I don't want to bother the judge with this silly question I have, you know, but they love it. They're here to help. That's why they're here. Their role at the tournament is to facilitate you having a fun, fair time. And so, you know, don't be afraid of it. So it looks like they're still gathering information. Again, we don't have another match to go to at the moment in our feature match area. That match already ended. Christian Calcano won that one pretty quickly. So we're just going to stick
He's
here
11-1 now.
Yes, he is. A couple other updates, by the way, while they get this sorted. I see that Luis Scott Vargas is now 10-2. He 3-0'd his draft, so if he runs this last draft, we've got a top 8 for LSV. Remember, he flew out here on a red eye, kind of last minute-ish, because he had the fire. He doesn't want to lose anymore. He's had enough of it, you know. Also,
I like that.
I love it. I think it's great. Also, Andrew Cuneo won his match in our side table, not the one that was there, but on our text table. So
he moves on to 11-1 also.
that's right. All right, looks like we're just getting the last few pieces of info, and then we'll have a ruling here. You can take a look at the board state as it sat when this when the judge ruling was called in here. Basically, the Assets Bureau Dragons attacking.
Yep.
The Sunscorch region would have to block to keep Ochoa alive. It did not. And now they're
Strong drive from the Assets Bureau Dragon.
yeah, they're going to see if the dragon's going to get in there and get that 4 damage in. And this is I believe that we have a ruling here from Jared. A little bit of last minute discussion and. Okay, and I think Jacob Wilson did win that match. Okay, so Jacob Wilson wins the match 2-0. A tough one for David Ochoa to take. You know, a miscommunication, a little